Hello and welcome to today's Facebook Live session. I'm sorry we're a little bit late, but we've been having technical difficulties on our end. So a little bit like last week, if any of us drop out or the Wi-Fi goes, you will have to bear with us a minute. But today we have a session called People Buy From People. As you know, if you've been watching these sessions a few times recently, we've been covering all sorts of things to do with all different types of people and businesses and adults and kids. And we thought, we want to do a session that's about business, but about the people in the business as much as business itself. So today's session, whilst the title might sound a little bit woolly, really we're talking about the people in the business, how you can inject people into your branding, and how you get out there and build relationships with people in order to build your business. Because essentially your products and your services might be absolutely fantastic, but it's the people that are going to make your business, it's the people that are going to buy from you. So that's what we're talking about today. We've got an amazing team with us today. All of them are successful business people in their own right, running their own businesses. So I'm going to go around and let them introduce themselves. So Joanne, I'm coming to you first. What's your name and where do you come from?
My name's Joanne Bury and I'm the Solicitor and Director of Bury's Solicitors, based in Manchester, and we specialise in wills, probate when people have died, powers of attorney and residential conveyancing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joanne. Christopher Clarke, who are you?
Hello, darling girls. So my name is Chris Clarke and I'm the Game Changer. We specialise in getting professional, driven, successful women who are getting frustrated with their next step moving. We do that by a whole pile of stuff, getting their head in the right place. I also am part of the founding team of a brand new funky network called Spark Networking, which is connecting businesses throughout the North.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And Rob, what's your name and where do you come from?
So I'm Rob. I'm the Managing Director of Global Recruit. We are an independent boutique recruitment agency based in Rotherham. We help candidates find jobs across each of our specialist areas, which could be office support, sales, marketing, IT. We also help businesses across all industries and all sizes fill their jobs, which may be temporary or permanent positions.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got quite a kind of wide-ranging group of people here today, but the reason that I thought all of you would be great for this session is that people are fundamental to your businesses. So Joanne, obviously is a solicitor, but you focus on wills, probate and trust, like you say, and obviously being a personable, people-friendly business is fundamental to that. But also, I know you are a company that cares about its staff deeply, because I know some of the people that work for you. Rob, obviously, you're in recruitment. People are fundamental to what you do, getting the right person into the right job. And Chris, as the game changer, obviously you help people become better people, but also with Spark Networking, it is all about getting people out there and getting people talking to each other and building those relationships. So I'm going to just go around again and ask each of you to tell me a little bit of your kind of personal experience. Why do you think people are important in business, and what does it mean to you when you hear the phrase people buy from people? So Joanne, I'm going to come to you first again.
Definitely with the job that I do in particular, you're dealing with death, either preparing for it, somebody losing capacity, or indeed somebody having died. And very much you can't be just a solicitor at that point, because you can go to the high street and get I don't know how many solicitors, and it very much depends on whether you connect with that person. And they're looking for, clients in particular are looking for that person who has qualifications to do the job, that guides them through. So we pride ourselves on saying that we're human beings that happen to be highly qualified in what we do. And that's important to our clients. You don't need a stuffy traditional idea of a solicitor sat in front of you when your mum's just died.
I mean, that's the key, isn't it? You are dealing with people where you're dealing with people when they're at the most vulnerable, but also you're preparing people, if you're dealing with them 5 years before when they're writing the will or whatever, you're preparing them for that point when they're going to be at that vulnerable, aren't you? So that element of trust and buying into you as a person is crucial, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chris Clarke, what about you, please?
I think the statement people buy from people, I mean, it's something that we hear all the time as business men and women. We just, that's thrown away. But I don't think people really, they hear it, but they don't really do very much about it. I think that's the fundamental thing. And so there are two parts to that statement. There's the people and there's the buy part of it. So if I look at the buy part, I'm fundamentally a salesperson. My corporate career of about 14 years with Hewlett-Packard, big IT firm, big giant, and long before HP was really a consumer brand, and doing big deals down in the city and inspiring partners like Accenture, big PwC, big organizations who weren't employed by you, but inspiring them to be motivated and driven to correlate their thinking with what you were doing. And so that buy part has really fundamentally always been part of what I do. And I love selling, and I'm a massive advocate for selling. And I enjoy helping people connect with the buy part when most of the world is pulling in the opposite direction. When we think of selling, we think it's dirty, we think it's this, we think it's greasy sales people or whatever. We think of, the double glazing folks stuck in the kitchen and, 5 hours to get rid of them. And so ultimately it colors what you then feel you're willing to sell for yourself. And I think the other part of the puzzle for that is the people part, and influencing other people to take a course of action is where everybody, I think, spends a lot of money and a lot of effort, but there's a piece of the puzzle missing, because until you actually know who you are and what you stand for, you don't really have a clue as to why you're making it easy for someone to work with you or why you're fucking it up. And so a large part of what I do is first and foremost helping the person understand, who do you want to be? And if once we understand who do you want to be, you can understand how far off you are from being that person, because ultimately when you put it out into marketing, sales, whatever that looks like, it gets amplified, and any disconnect inside your own head just gets amplified to the world. And that's why people buy from people, or that's why people don't buy from certain people. It's the same equation, two parts of it, people and the buy part.
You're absolutely right. We've got a little bit of a lag on the thing, for just in case people are wondering why there's a gap. But I think what the important thing that I picked up there, Chris, and this is one thing you've been teaching me over the last kind of 2 or 3 years we've been working together, is that it doesn't matter how bloody amazing your product or your service is, or whether or not it's the best one on the market or out there. People make that decision on whether or not they're going to work with you or whether or not they're going to buy it on an emotional response, and that can be an instant emotional either liking to you or disliking to you or whatever. And if people don't recognize that, they go out there and they say, well, I've got the best solution to this, why is nobody buying it? And if you've not recognized it's that emotional connection, that's what's fundamentally missing, isn't it? That's the thing.
And I think what's interesting with that is, and most of the work that I do as Game Changer is helping successful people see what that disconnect is. And so I'm not necessarily working with people who are broken, I'm working with successful people who are getting frustrated why they're not getting the next growth, the next step change in their business. And when you actually understand what you're amplifying out to the world, you don't tend to cry. You just tend to go, well, fucking hell, that makes a lot of sense now. And then you're in a position to alter it and change it. But the starting point for all of this, in my world, is fundamentally, who are you? What do you stand for? And how are you frigging that up, or making it easy for it to attract people?
Brilliant, thank you, Chris.
Sorry for the lag, by the way. I'm in Cumbria, and there's not a lot of sheep on the.
You've got sheep and fallen trees and all sorts, haven't you? Rob, what about you? What does people buy from people mean to you?
I mean, the industry I work in, our product, our service is all centered around people. So I'm a massive, the people buy from people statement is used a lot, but I think it really, really means something. But I don't think many people focus on what it means to them and how important it is. So for us, obviously, we have two customers. We've got the candidate who's looking for a job, and those candidates could just be unhappy with their current job, or they could have been made redundant and find themselves in a situation of crisis. So we have to adapt our style to that person that we're dealing with. And the same with employers. It could be that they're growing, so they need additional staff, which is an exciting time. It could be that they need them people really quickly, so we've got to react quickly. So for me, it's about recruiting the right people to deliver the right quality of service, but also making sure the people that are doing that service are delivering it on brand and are helpful and easy to deal with. So when I set up Glue Recruit, it sounds like this webinar was kind of written for us, because our strapline is your very own personal recruiter, because we're all about the personal relationship rather than just the transactional piece of recruitment. And we do that in many, many ways. But for me, it all comes back to caring, your branding, and delivering a quality service. Because you could be a great person to buy from, but if that's backed up by a poor quality product or service, those people aren't gonna return. And that's it for us, delivering it and keeping it.
That's the hardest thing as well, isn't it, about recruitment? Because it's you know, you go through a normal jobs application process, and you could be the perfect candidate, you could have the perfect candidate on paper, but if they're not going to fit within your team, if they're not going to gel, then that's when that recruitment is wrong, isn't it? And you need somebody. That's where recruitment agencies are good, because they have that eye. They've met the person, they've met the company. They kind of get an idea of who's going to fit where. Because again, it comes back to that, you know, it's that human emotional response as to whether or not somebody's going to gel in a company and do well in a job. You know, just having an application or one of those, what do you call those tests that you do that are like, they're a bit like aptitude tests. You know, they don't really tell you anything, do they, at all? And that's why as an employer, it's hard then to go through that process, isn't it?
Yeah, and also very time consuming. And I think recruitment as an industry, I've worked in it 15 years. It's very easy to stick a job advert on Indeed and it doesn't cost you anything. And then you're going to get probably an obscene amount of people apply, most of which won't be right. And it's quite time consuming to sift through those and to decide from that black and white on that paper who's the best people to interview. Because you're right, Rachel, 50% is, have you got the skills and experience to the job? Or the other 50%, which is an equal measure on, are you the right person for my business?
Yeah.
And you don't know if you stick something online. So
yeah, what I find interesting about this though is as you've all three of you there just sort of introduced your businesses and talked a little bit, each of you's touched on, so I do want to come back to it. It's that kind of creation story of why you started doing what you were doing, because again, that's fundamental for people. Joanne, I know, I've spoken to Amy, who I network with from Bury's solicitors, and she tells the story. So I'm going to let you tell the story because it's your story, but of how you started the company and why you started the company, and that's because you had a bad experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I honestly, growing up, wanted to work in a museum or enjoyed history. Law was not an option for me in terms of I had to do it. I've grown up, me and my brother have both grown up in a house with a grandma that lived with us with Alzheimer's. So that's quite difficult when you're a young teenager dealing with that, dealing with a grandma who no longer knows you, and seeing how my mum dealt with all of that, the death of my granddad whilst working full time, trying to hold a family down and just generally not fall apart on a regular basis. And she was an absolute hero for doing so. And I remember asking her once when I was young, and I said, well, why have you got to take another day off to go and see a solicitor? Can they not come in the evening? Can they not come and see you? She was getting extra stressed with the procedure that she had to do for the paperwork more than she needed to. And she wasn't dealing with anybody empathetic. So I said, why can't they come out? And she said, well, solicitors don't come out and do that kind of thing, Joanne. I said, well, why not? And she went, well, if you want to be a smart ass, off you pop, go to university and do it yourself. So taking up the challenge of a 13-year long game, I did that, and I set up Bury specifically to be able to do what I wanted with the business after I trained, which was to offer the documents that my family have had to do. And then unfortunately for me, my own mum started with Alzheimer's at 55, and then moved in with me, and then she had to go into hospital because 2 weeks after moving in with me, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. So by the time she was 60, it was very, very difficult. You've dealt with loss, and the idea is that we literally live, and I have breathed every single document that I produce. I have the horrifying personal experience of dealing with it. I can tell you what you need, when you need it, what you don't need. If it's not good enough for your parents, it's not good enough for any of our clients. So I set up Bury as being really niche and away from the traditional idea of a solicitor, because every client who sits in front of me, oh, I've been there, I've done that, and I have worn that crappy T-shirt and it is truly awful. My job is to help people. I just happen to be very qualified because I had to go and get the qualifications to back up my crappy experience.
Yeah, and it is, with GrowTraffic, I've talked about kind of how we set GrowTraffic up and how we came to be the company we are. But I had a bad back. I still have got a bad back. I've got a thing called degenerative disc disease, so I take a shitting hell of a lot of painkillers every day. But I wanted and I needed a company that would work around that. You know, I had a young child, I had horses, I had this disability, and I couldn't sit at a desk and work 9 to 5. But I wanted to do that job, and I still wanted to build a business. And I said, if I can build a business that works for the people who work in it, you know, if you need to take time off to go and look after your mum, or you need to go and get the kids from school, or you've got something wrong, you know, you've got a physical or a mental issue that means you need to take some time off, then that's the company I want to build, because that's how every company should be. I think that you have that kind of level of empathy and say, right, you know, our staff are not machines. They have lives outside of this, and work needs to fit around that life and not the other way around. And one thing I think that's going to come out of COVID, which we'll come on and talk about, is I think that businesses have recognised that they can do their jobs from home. They can work flexibly. You know, if they need to be doing the childcare in the morning, they can catch up on the work in the afternoon, and that's all right. The work still gets done. So I think it's interesting how we've all sort of got these stories of personal struggle that have led us to build companies that put people first. Chris, I think you had a similar story as to why you do Game Changer, don't you, from when you left Hewlett Packard?
Yeah, and I think everybody has a story, don't they? Because it drives them to keep going with it. So you know, I worked for HP, and it wasn't an obvious route for me, but you know, I found myself big corporate company in the sort of 80s and 90s, an exciting time when, you know, technology was really being born and becoming quite enabling. And I got to my early 30s. I'm 50 this year, and I got to my early 30s, and I was, you know, a good senior position. I'd shed loads of cash, was significantly overweight, and didn't really like myself. And as a result of that, I found that I was quite angry a lot. Things really pissed me off a lot. I had quite low tolerance. And somebody said to me, said, "Oh, you need to go and you should go on this conference thing with this guy called Tony Robbins." And I'd never heard of Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. And you know, if you Google him, he's a giant of a man physically, and you know, and has spent his life, you know, helping people see their worlds differently. And anyway, at that point in time, personal development in the IT industry was going on a PowerPoint presentation. It wasn't, you know, delving inside your head or doing anything significant like that. So I trudged along to the Excel Centre at the Docklands, begrudgingly, I have to say, for a 4-day conference. And there were 9,000 other people. At the end of day one, you'd got fireworks and throwing themselves on the floor and fucking, you know, Hail Marys and all sorts of random shit. And I honestly thought that well, I thought they were a bunch of nutters, if I'm honest. And then I was planning and plotting my escape route so to not have to be there for the final 3 days. I did do the firewalk, I have to say. The firewalk itself was absolutely fine, but taking your shoes and socks off and walking down to the fucking Thames, that was quite painful. 4 days later, I think what was fair to say for me was that he'd said a few things that really resonated. And one was, listen, if you don't like the way something is, just change it. And then ultimately, after 4 days, I came out the other end and went and handed him my notice. And the guys at HP were like, that wasn't the reason you were meant to go. You know, we weren't intending you to do that. And it's like, I just decided that I needed to alter the environment. I didn't have another job to go to. I just wanted to go and explore it, which is what I did. And I spent the next year and a half trekking around, following around the world, following various conferences with Tony Robbins, popped out the other end and became, well, I was delighted with myself. I loved myself. And I think that's really important as well, because it's a foundational block. And you'd be amazed how many people, successful business people we talk to, and when I ask them the question, a score out of 10 where 10 is massive and 1 is nothing, how much do you love yourself? The scores are typically very low, and they use work to fill the gap, to put worth and purpose in, and it'll never be compelling enough or big enough or actually love yourself. So that's the lifelong piece of work. And I think what happened for me, well, I know what happened for me afterwards, I just became uber curious as to how these changes and transformations have been made possible. Because at the age of 30 odd, it's tempting to say, well, I am what I am. I'm just a miserable fat bastard, which is what I was at the time. That curiosity led me to a whole pile of techniques, and specifically something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro is the brain, linguistics are how you speak to the brain, and programs are the strategies you've created to just get shizzle done quickly. I think NLP is well known now, but it's also a little bit of a red herring, because often I'll talk to business owners who'll say, oh, I know NLP, I've done a bit of NLP. And that language in itself suggests that they really haven't. And I just would encourage people who are interested in, finding out a little bit more about why they think in a certain way, to just do the research and make sure that the Sherpa that's going to work with them is the right fit. And I think, people buy from people. Getting a Sherpa that's the right fit is crucial. I don't take that journey to become their best friend, and many coaches do. I take that journey to show them how to climb the mountain. But I have no intention of carrying them up the mountain, because when you do that as a coach and a business person, if you solve the problem, even though it was fair, because it's just faster to do it than to ask somebody else, if you consistently do that, then you become the bottleneck. You become the bottleneck in your business, and you also become the bottleneck inside your own what's possible. That's why businesses and people get stuck and static, because they're only as good as their limitation, and that limitation isn't based on skills, it's based on mindset, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't.
Yeah, my when I was little, and if I didn't know the answer to something on my homework, I always used to go to my nan and say, "What is this?" And she'd go, "You have to go and look it up. You have to go and look it up in the encyclopedia." And it used to drive me insane. I learned later it was because she didn't know the answer. But I said, "Why don't you just tell me the answer? Tell me the answer." But she taught me that if I don't know something, or if I can't do something, there's only me that's going to get me out of that situation. You have to go and figure out how to do it. But I like what you said there as well, Chris. Is that if you don't like something, change it. You are the only person who is able to do that. If you don't like something about your job or your company or your life, you've got to be the one that's got to get out and do it, haven't you?
Sorry, John.
No, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it's interesting because so many people, my ideal clients are between 40 and 60-year-old driven, ambitious ladies. And the reason for that is it's not that, we can't work with the 20-year-olds. It's fundamentally because the 20-year-olds see it as advice. They go, "Oh, that's interesting," and then they need to go and experience it. Whereas when you get to 40 and 60, you've actually come to the party with that limitation. You come to the party and you go, "Seriously, I can't get past this. I don't know, it is what it is. I can't get past it." But they're motivated to get past it. So the first part is, if you don't like it, change it. But so many people at 50 years old, they decided at 20 they didn't like it, but they did fuck all about it because they don't know how to do it. And that's part of the thing. I just say to folks, you can't cut the back of your own hair. And I'm testimony to that. In lockdown at the moment, my quiff is getting huge. But you can't cut the back of your own hair. You need somebody to go to the place and help you look at the bits that you're not able to look at.
Yeah, I think we'll not get into lockdown haircuts because that's a whole other can of worms. So Rob, you were saying that just before we came on that one of the reasons you started Glue Recruit again in the first place is because you wanted to build a better recruitment agency that put people first. So tell me a bit more about that.
Well, it was a bit before that, really, because I've worked in recruitment for 15 years. And for 11 of those years, I worked for a big corporate firm, like Chris mentioned, and then for a smaller independent. And during the time I worked for the smaller independent, which was the time that I loved after working for such a big corporate for a long time, we went into the process to adopt 2 children, which took about a year and a half, nearly 2 years. And so my life just changed whilst I was an employee of a business to suddenly becoming a dad to 2 young children. When they came to live with us, Ruby was only 11 months, and later my little boy was only 4. So my life just turned on its head. So I couldn't do the things that I used to be able to do. I was traveling into Sheffield city centre every day. So I was missing the kids waking up in the morning. And then at night time, I was coming home and they were just nodding off for sleep time. So I just knew I had to make a change in my life and my career. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do because recruitment is a very saturated marketplace. So the thought of setting up another recruitment agency, I just didn't know if it was going to be the right thing to do. So I left my job without a job to go to and just did some soul searching. Went for a few interviews. I hated everyone. And then I kind of got to the point of, and I need to earn some money. And then you revert to what you know, don't you, which is recruitment. So I took that chance to look at, I know the marketplace, I know the competitors really well. I need to do something different and offer something more personable and more partnership-led that adds value to businesses, but they actually enjoy interacting with us rather than feel like it's a necessity.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, it's like you said, you know, it's what we said all the time, isn't it? It's putting people first and putting that your values and what you believe is important into your business. You know, you've seen something missing that you've seen so far, and you thought, you know what, I can do that better. And it's the same thing, isn't it? If you don't like something, you go out and you change it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, all of you. So we've got a kind of background on where you're all at and why you do what you do now, and it is absolutely evident that people are front and centre in terms of what you do. So we've talked a little bit about why businesses should put people at the forefront, but I'd like to just go a little bit more into how they actually go about doing that. So this is both from a kind of an inside personnel point of view, but also from an external, how do you go about those relationships with your target audience? So again, I like a little bit of your kind of your personal stories as to how you've gone about doing this, but also if you've got any sort of advice that you think, practical tips that are going to help people do this. So Joanne, what do you do at Bury Solicitors to put people first in your organisation?
Yeah, again, because the USP of our firm is essentially me and my experience, and that's what it sort of grew around. Rather than a solicitors just starting up and just chucking a load of solicitors in there, it wasn't like that. It started off with me with a laptop, and I'll be honest, the side of my mum's bedside in hospital in the last few months. And then it grows from there because of the people around. So just like Rob is speaking about partnership and making sure that your staff are right, I've had the added bonus for myself that I have been teaching at university for 10 years, lecturing on the law degree. So I've really had a pick of a crop, being able to handpick students that you can see a good work ethic, but also their whole personality and the obstacles they've overcome in their own lives to be able to come and sit in that lecture theatre day in, day out and make sure that they really concentrate on their studies. And I've stolen them, I've nicked them, I've nurtured them, and we've homegrown. So I've just had Melissa, one of my ex-students, plucked her from university. She's now fully qualified. So she's been with me for 6 years. And that enables her to not just be a solicitor, but grow with Berries, that she's a little replica of me in that respect. She's gone through Alzheimer's in her own family and her own challenges to get over in her personal life as well as Tara, my trainee solicitor that's with me. She was from university as well. And I haven't specifically recruited, like Rob's saying, you've got to get the right people. So for us, it wasn't about going out there and getting a solicitor. So we've grown our own little team. And the personalities are such that they complement each other, but we've all got that shared experience to be able to give that care to a client that when I'm not available, it's given to them by everybody else here. So we do say it's from our home to your home. It's from our family. And we really are. I think we're all missing each other terribly at the moment because we're not together. Although I believe I'm their biggest distraction, because I do tend to sort of start turning the radio up all the time, asking what year things is. But if you're not allowed to be yourself at work, and that's what I absolutely love to do about setting up Berries, was I could be myself completely. I didn't have to put on any airs and graces, dog eat dog in solicitors world when it's training contracts. I didn't have to do any of that here. I've been able to let the personality show, and that's what people come to us for. It's a case of Jo will sort you out. You've got somebody's died, ring Jo. She knows what to do. She'll sort you out. And being a solicitor is kind of secondary. It's the comfort that everybody has.
Yeah, I think that there's two interesting things that you said there, and I think this is one of the things that's particularly true for you, is that you are kind of getting rid of that stuffy impression of what a solicitor is. You know, you think you think a solicitor's going to be intimidating and businesslike, and they're going to be sat behind a big leather desk, and it's not like, you know, you go to your offices. I mean, we've had our wills done at your offices when we get them signed, but you go and sit on a comfy sofa and you have a brew, and it's a lovely room, and you've got pictures up, and it's soft light, and you just sit there and have a proper chat with people. It's not like, right, you know, you've got 45 minutes on the clock, start now. And I think that's really important. And I think, you know, like you say, training the next generation, but teaching them and teaching other people that actually being a solicitor's firm doesn't need to be like that. We are people, and we are people-centred, is really important. And there's another buzzword around at the moment, isn't there? The be authentic thing that people always talk about, be authentic. But it's crucial, isn't it? It's crucial to do.
I've got no filter either, so that's a spade is a spade, but not in a bad way. In terms of, I'm not here to sell things that a client doesn't need. At the end of the day, we've got the soft lighting. It feels like your own lounge when you come into our office for people who want to come into the office. But we have plenty of clients, like my gran and my mum. I wouldn't have dreamed of bringing them out to a mahogany office with some pinstripes sat in front of them, going, right, go, and the rest of it. I'm going to their house. I'm sat on the floor with boxes of paperwork while somebody's crying that the bottom of the world has just dropped out because somebody's just died, and they don't have the first clue of where to start. And they want a human being in front of them on the floor doing that kind of thing. So doing the home visits, because you don't, if somebody's got dementia as well and they're going through powers of attorney, do not drag them out to a solicitor's office. The problem is that when you are dealing with dementia and loss and things, you've got to have experienced it, to be quite honest. When you are dealing with a vulnerable client with dementia, you've got to have that level of understanding and go to their house. You can't, they freak out and change. And you've got to be able to do that. So we're flexible enough to have learned that as well.
It's putting a human face on it, isn't it? There's no need, and I think businesses like finance and law, they are the sort of last bastions that haven't kind of caught onto this yet, although it is improving. But most businesses, I think, have started to realise now, and especially I think because of the age of social media and stuff like that, that actually we're all just human, and you've got to have a human face and be a human being. What you said there is always good, because you said you got no filter, and Chris, as Chris will attest, I have no filter either. But I think that's, if you look on our GrowTraffic Facebook page, you'll see the sort of stuff that we get up to, and I think that's important, because the other thing is, if you put across a certain impression, and you go networking and wear a suit, and you Facebook and your LinkedIn and corporate and all the rest of it, and then people meet you and they realise she's not like that, she's not very professional, she swears like a trooper, then that's not, you've not put across the right impression, have you? You've not done right by your business. So I think that's really important. Chris, I know you are also somebody who has no filter. I take it that has never hindered your business, has it not?
I think it's made my business. And in truth, I do have a filter. it's just got a bit stuck. And the filter for me is about so I was 26 when I came out as a gay boy, and that's quite old in gay years. So gay years and dog years are the same. So that's like being about 90-year-old coming out into the gay world, and I think what was interesting, up for many reasons why I hadn't done it, and it was generally because I was conscious what maybe my parents would think. They were strong Northerners, and we hadn't grown up in that sort of environment. I didn't know any other gay people, and you sort of get concerned on what other people are going to say and how they're going to respond to you. Now, when you actually come out, whether that's the kids coming out these days, they're coming out at really early ages, and there's much more fluidity as well. So you don't even get fixed. They don't go, I'm a gay man. They're just in and out and just flicks because they don't see it necessarily in the same way. The one thing we can learn from this is that actually it would have been daft. It would have been stifled professionally who I was having made the decision. So there's so many things that I'm super grateful to HP for, and one of them was that particular weekend. So I left HP on the Friday with a girlfriend, and I came back on the Monday with a boyfriend. And that was a really big deal. It was 96, and it was a big deal. And they were amazing. I'm not saying they understood it. I'm not really sure they wanted to get into a conversation. However, it would have been completely ridiculous in my head for me to have not acknowledged it and to absorb that as part of who I am. And so going forward, from that day forward, it is part of what I talk about. And I think now what I use that to help other people step into is giving folks permission, giving them permission. So what Joanne's done is she's given all those other solicitors experience equally to the education. And she's given them permission to go, no, actually, we don't have to be solicitors in that traditional format. We don't have to be that way. And I do that with everything that we do, specifically on the Spark networking. It's really freeing people to go, when you're pissed or you've got you're a great case. When you've got a glass of red on the go, you're even freer than you might be, in the morning. And it's kind of like, well, we need a midpoint on that gets projected out to the world. Otherwise, it just looks like you're trying to be something you're not. So to take your point, Rach, about people being authentic, this is where they hear it, and then what they do is they construct what they believe authenticity should look like for their chosen field. So they'll construct what an IFA should look like. They'll construct what a recruiter should look like. The recruiters in the city, they're sharp, they're suited and booted, they'll construct it. But when you have a conversation with them and you go, is this you? They're like, no, it's not me, but it's what the client expects. But the clients aren't stupid. The clients, we as humans are just a pile of molecules bouncing around in a sack of skin. And what that means is that we are literally emitting an energy frequency to the world, like a radio station. So if you love listening to Radio 2, however, your client is Rock FM, somebody's got to do the shift. And what happens is you end up going, I need a job. So you pretend to be Rock FM. And it doesn't work because the Rock FM guys go, well, tell me about this band or that band or this one. They go, I don't know. You've got like the surface level. They just sense it. They'll say something like, I don't know what it is about that person. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't. And usually it's trust. I just don't trust them. I just don't get them. I just don't think they're being straight. So authenticity has to come from who you are, right from the core. And you've got two options, as I see it. You either take who you are and build a business around it and a network and a family and so forth, or you look at who you are and who you'd like to be.
Oh, we've lost him. We've lost him whilst he was in full flow. I'll come back in a minute. I do want to pick up on one thing that Chris was saying there, because you see it when because we run the Spark networking groups, which we've been doing online over the last few weeks. But when we were doing it before in face to face with people, you would see people rock up at a Spark networking meeting, and don't get, I do all sorts. So I go to loads of different networking groups. It's different ropes for different folks. What's the phrase? Different soaps for different folks. Different strokes. I knew there was a phrase in there somewhere. So, there's different people get on better at different types of networking groups. That's why we have so many of them. But you see a lot of people come to Spark Networking, and you've just experienced Chris. He's quite loud. He's quite lewd, and he swears a lot. And I'm pretty much the same. And we'll start the meetings, and we'll be kind of swearing and saying rude jokes, normally penis jokes, and you see people's faces kind of go like this, like, oh my goodness, what is this? And it's actually, no, do you know what? We're just going to have a laugh. You can be yourself and still project your company. Obviously, there's within limits with that, but you can still project your company, project yourself, sell to people. And as Chris said then, people sense it. If you are being insincere, people sense it, and it's very quickly will pick up on the fact that you're being insincere. So it's better to be yourself and let that side of you out, rather than trying to hide it and be something that you're not. Whilst Chris is just coming back on, Rob, I presume, I've never run a recruitment agency, but is that the sort of advice you would give to somebody who's going for a job, or somebody who's seeking a job, is kind of be authentic and don't put a front on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything that everyone said is pretty much what I would say. In terms of like our business, when I'm recruiting people in, very much like Joanne mentioned earlier, I recruit based on personality, how well I think they'll fit in the business, and how well I think they'll represent the brand that I want it to be. And to be honest, to a certain extent, it doesn't really matter what they've done. So in the past, when I've recruited experienced recruiters who you would think might be better at the job, it doesn't always work that way. So recruiting on personality and encouraging people to be authentic and be themselves is generally the best recipe for success. So my two best performing recruiters, one worked at Homebase and one worked at Tesco. So, and those things are so different to the job that we do, but yet they're brilliant because they're just great at talking to people and they're just themselves. So I give everybody permission to come to work, wear what you want, say what you want, wear your heart on your sleeve, just be yourself. And we also, I guess we look for that in businesses that we deal with. So you've just said, Rachel, when you go to a networking event, I'm like you, and then some people might look at me and think, oh my God, he's not perhaps very professional or corporate, but that's probably not something I'd want to deal with. I'd rather deal with like-minded businesses that value culture and value people that are themselves. Yeah,
I think that is the crucial thing, and this is one thing that Chris has taught me. So he'll be gutted he's not here for this bit, but. Not everybody's going to like you. You are not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You will meet some people and you're just not going to gel with them. You won't like them, they won't like you, whatever the reasoning might be. And I'm the sort of person who always likes people to like me. And so that was really quite a hard thing to hear at first. I was like, oh, but I want everybody to love me. But they're just not. And I think realizing that is quite a freeing thing, because you think, right, okay, I'm going to focus on the people who I am going to get along with, or who will like me, or who will buy into me as a person, because then, you're already halfway there with the sale or whatever it is. And there's no point wasting energy on the people who aren't going to like you, is there?
Someone once said to me something which always sticks in my head, which is people like themselves. And I think when we're making new client relationships, the ones that we hit it off with and the ones that stay with us are all very similar to us. And that's why they work with us. They come back, they recommend us. And the ones that aren't like us, we just don't get it. It's coming back to that radio station thing that Chris was just saying. We just don't get each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though. But there will be a company out there for them.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, you don't have to like everybody, because, and this is the thing as well, when I see, you know, sometimes at networking groups and stuff, people will say, oh, well, there's already a solicitor, or there's already a financial advisor or something. And I always say, well, that doesn't matter, because you are going to please the people you like. You will sell to the people who like you, and they will sell to those other people. You will never, ever get two companies and two people who are exactly the same. So even if you think you're going for the same market, you're not really. You know, you're going for different people, and they'll identify with you. I think it's quite a freeing thing as well, and it took me a long time to realize this, but you know, just being able to say, okay, you know, well, not everybody's going to like me, but that's all right, and go for that. We are coming up to 5 minutes past. Chris is obviously having internet issues trying to get back in. So there's one more question that I did want to ask you all before we kind of round up and go on to top tips. And if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask the panel, put it in the comments now. We have had quite a few comments, though, that people are saying that they enjoyed it, but no questions yet. But I'm jumping around here. The final question I wanted to ask you are there any kind of tools or platforms or apps that can help people facilitate this? And I know this is nebulous because we've talked around quite a few different issues today, generally. But if I think about the way that the lockdown has changed the world for people. So, for example, one of the things we've been using is Zoom, and we have been absolutely, well, I don't feel like I've been off Zoom recently. But that's been helping me keep in touch with clients, keep in touch with the team. What have you guys been using? Joanne, what have you been using within your business and without?
We've been using Zoom, we've been doing team meetings, but also with clients. We rely a lot on phones. It's quite interesting to see just how much we've used email for documents rather than posting, which helps because there's only me in the office doing everything with the post. That helps. We've had to adapt quite a lot in terms of witnessing documents because they're legal documents. So we have a problem, especially with wills, having two witnesses for it. And you do have to adapt, and we've had no guidance from the Law Society really as to whether they're going to change anything. It's been taught, but they've not particularly changed anything about these two witnesses. And clients are often ringing us up saying, I need to get something witnessed. And next week, again, I'll be going out to wave at a client through a window, sign that, please, let me witness it. Put it back through the post box and do that. It's like, it's weird because I'm like speaking to another client and I'm like, let's meet up on a car park and we'll witness it on the bonnet of a car, wherever you feel comfortable. And it's really odd, but it needs to be done because we don't really have a solution for it because we're bound by laws to what can be witnessed and what can't and how it needs to be done. So we've had to do some weird adaptations, but I think if you do get to know us and if you ever come in our office, I mean, people do struggle to figure out whether we're solicitors or we do nails and beauty because our office just is our personality. It's that people are fine with that. They're like, yeah, Joe, whatever we need to do to sort it, I'm grateful that you are going to sort it. Solicitors have closed the doors.
I think that is a key thing, isn't it? Is that, we've all had to adapt the way that we're doing our business, but putting the people at the heart of it, putting the staff at the heart of it and the customers at the heart of it. If you are the sort of business where you have been honest and open with people and informal and you've just got on with stuff and you're suddenly saying to them, right, you know what, we're going to do this through the letterbox. Yeah. Fine, because again, it's back to that personality thing, isn't it? That's your personality. You're a bit crackers anyway. So if we have to sign our wills through the letterbox, let's just crack on with it.
Yeah, Serena's asking about Zoom. So we've done a few ID checks, things via Zoom and stuff, but we're trying to keep it as traditional as we can with the witnessing because you don't want anything challenged. It's easy to challenge a will anyway. People are going to get voucher wills for like £19.99, and it's like that's ridiculous. That's the equivalent of getting a COVID haircut. Yeah, we can all put a bowl on our head and cut it, but you're going to look like an absolute lunatic. It's going to be sort of business at the front, party at the back. The wills won't work. End of. So where possible, we don't want any reason for any of these documents to ever be challenged. I've got one ongoing at the moment where I'm going to have to get an affidavit off a witness to see whether it was signed properly because somebody has died. I'm not leaving my clients open to that. If I've got to get my backside out to go and wave at them through a window,
you go and do it.
Yeah.
Again, it's putting people first, isn't it? Not to a point where you're going to endanger yourself or anybody else, but you could quite easily say, "Oh, this is a risky situation. I'm going to stay here in my house where I know I'm safe." And you've put the people at the heart of your business, and you're saying, "All right, that's not a massive sacrifice to drive 20 minutes in the car and do it. So that's what I need to do." That's admirable. Rob, how about you? How have you been doing in your business? How have things changed? How are you coping?
It's all very. We're all working from home at the moment for obvious reasons. When I started the business, I did work from home, and we only got an office as the team grew. So I'm really used to working from home. It's been really impressive how the guys have adapted, because none of them are used to it. But it's all kind of become the new normal now, I guess. But we've been keeping in touch with our candidates and clients on the usual stuff, so Zoom, Skype. We've done FaceTime, WhatsApp, Google Hangouts type stuff. We have a weekly quiz for the Glue Recruit team, where just so we can all keep in touch and get back together. We register candidates via video now rather than face-to-face. And similarly with employers, when they've got a vacancy, we can just jump on a video call and take the details. So it makes you realise that you don't need to see people face to face to do the same level of quality of job.
Absolutely, and that brings us round to something that we discussed near the beginning, isn't it? It's that ability to work flexibly, and this is what's great about the way businesses that have adapted is that they have, in the flicker of an eye, changed the way that they do things, and it's still working. And so we are able to have staff that are safe and working from home. We're able to have customers that are still getting the service that they need from us, but they are also safe at home. And it would have been very easy for lots of people, I think, to go, "Do you know what? This is too tricky. Let's just not." But businesses have adapted, and again, put people at the centre, and this is what's happened: is that we're all evolving the way the world of work works, and I don't think it'll go back to how it was. Chris, obviously we've lost Chris. He's having difficulties coming back. I suspect he can hear us, because this is what happened at the beginning. He could hear us even though we couldn't see him. But I know he will say, as he said, he runs the Spark networking groups, and what we did there was immediately, as soon as COVID struck, we went online, and Spark networking was only actually a couple of months old. We hadn't even had that many physical meetings before COVID struck, and we went online, and so we used Zoom. We also use WhatsApp to keep in touch with each other. But that means that the networking continues, that people can still continue to build relationships with people in other businesses. We can still sell our products. We can still get our services out and tell people what we're doing. And like you said, Rob, I run the Spark networking quiz on a Friday night at 5:00 Friday night. Let us know if you want to come and do it tonight. But that's, again, it's not just about building those business relationships. It's about building those friendships, and whether it's somebody within your own business or somebody who's in a company, even rival companies, we need to build relationships with people if we're all going to survive anything, regardless of surviving lockdown.
Yeah,
we are at 2 minutes past 2, so I'm going to round it up. So I am so grateful to all of you. We have battled through some phenomenal Wi-Fi issues on today's call, so I am really grateful to all of you for sticking with it. I'd just like to go around and get your top tip for if you were to give businesses one piece of advice about people buying from people, what would it be? Joanne, what would your top piece of advice be?
I think we've definitely already covered it. It's be authentic, be who you are. If people want to come to you, they take your qualifications or your skill set as it just is. They're happy with it. They don't question. I don't have many people that come and look at my certificates and stuff like that. So it is to just be yourself. I just don't think I couldn't manage somewhere else if I wasn't able to be myself ultimately. And they'll come to you anyway.
Brilliant, absolutely perfect. Yeah, Rob, what about you?
I think mine. I know it's obvious, but I think mine would be the same. Employers allowing your people to give them permission to be authentic and be themselves, and don't let that be a barrier or a problem. And the same the other way around. I think what I've learned is the marketplace is crying out for personable brands. I think gone are the corporate old school days. I think the brands that can be personable, be authentic, and be proud, I think they'll flourish really in the marketplace.
Absolutely, no, I agree, and that would be mine as well. Is that we have both covered it, but be yourself. There's no need for anybody to put on a front and to not be authentic, as we say. Corporate image, I think those days are long gone, and people are just not going to buy into it. So if you want your brand and your business and the people in your business and your customers to all succeed and to come with you, you've got to be yourself and encourage everybody else to do the same. So that is brilliant. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you to Chris, even though we have lost him up in the wilds of Cumbria. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Rob. You've all been amazing. Please do continue to have the conversation in the comments box. If you would like to put your contact details in there, Rob and Joanne and Chris as well, then anybody who has any queries can get in touch with you. I really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you for sticking with it. And I will be in touch, no doubt, so that we can do some more of these in the future. And for now, I'm off for Cocktail Friday because it's the bank holiday weekend. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.